The air in the underground auction house reeked of sweat and desperation. Darien Reynolds pulled his collar higher, wishing he'd never agreed to this detour. Omega Station existed in the shadows between legal jurisdictions, a place where anything and anyone could be bought for the right price. "Just parts for the stabilizer," his co-pilot had insisted. "We'll be in and out." But Tomas had disappeared an hour ago, leaving Darien alone in this cesspool of the galaxy's worst. The auctioneer, a bulbous centaurian with too many eyes, gestured theatrically toward the stage. "Our next offering, gentlemen, a rare specimen indeed." Two guards dragged forward a slumped figure. When they yanked back the hood, Darien's breath caught. The woman, clearly female despite her alien features, had skin the color of burnished copper that seemed to shimmer under the harsh lights. Blonde curls fell in tangles around her face, unusual for her species, whatever it was. Most striking were her eyes, large, almond-shaped, and the vivid purple of distant nebulae. An Aurelian, genetically enhanced for navigation and spatial awareness. Some say they can feel gravitational waves, the auctioneer announced. Healthy female, approximately 30 standard years. Previous owner reports no defects. Darien's stomach turned. The Galactic Confederation had outlawed sentient trafficking decades ago, but here on the fringe, old barbarisms persisted. The woman's wrists bore the marks of restraints, and a thin scar traced her jawline. Her eyes, though, they weren't vacant like the others he'd glimpsed. They burned with a quiet defiance. Starting bid at 8,000 credits. Voices called out around him, the price climbing rapidly. Darien hadn't come here for this. He had a shipment of medical supplies bound for the outer colonies and barely enough fuel to make the journey, but something about those purple eyes. 15,000, he heard himself shout, hand raised. The room quieted momentarily. The auctioneer's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. 15,000 from the human. Do I hear 16? A draconian trader in the front row turned, sizing Darien up with reptilian coldness before nodding once. 18,000, Darien countered, heart pounding against his ribs. His credit account wouldn't survive this madness. The ship needed repairs and he had crew to pay, yet he couldn't walk away, not from her. The bidding grew fierce, but Darien matched each increase until finally, 30,000 credits to the human, going once, twice, sold. Later, in a dingy processing room, the woman was brought to him. Up close, the copper of her skin had subtle patterns like fingerprints or the whorls of ancient wood. She stood rigidly, eyes downcast. "My name is Darien Reynolds," he said softly. "I command a cargo vessel called the Starwind." She didn't respond. "I'm not," he struggled for words. "This isn't what you think. I'm going to release you at the next Confederation outpost." Her head snapped up, purple eyes narrowing. "Why?" Her voice was musical with an accent he couldn't place. "Because people shouldn't be property." She studied him with unsettling intensity. "You spent 30,000 credits on principle." "It appears I did." He ran a hand through his dark hair, suddenly embarrassed. "I'm probably going to regret it when I'm eating synthetic rations for the next 6 months." Something shifted in her expression, not quite trust, but perhaps the first seed of it. "I am called Vila," she said finally, "of the Aurelian Scientific Academy." "Well, Vila of the Aurelian Scientific Academy, my ship leaves in an hour. It's not luxurious, but it's clean, and no one will put you in restraints." As they walked toward the docking bay, he noticed how she observed everything: exit points, security systems, the weapons carried by passing mercenaries. This was no helpless victim. This was someone calculating her odds, making plans. "I can pay you back," she said suddenly. "My people will reward you for my return." "That's not why I did it." "Then why?" Darien paused, considering. "I'm not entirely sure myself, but where I come from we have an old saying, the stars guide those who are lost. Maybe I was just following their light." Vila's gaze lingered on him, measuring. "Your stars have strange ways, Darien Reynolds." For the first time that day, he smiled. "That they do, Vila, that they do." The Starwind's engines hummed steadily as they pushed deeper into the Veil Nebula, a cloud of purple and blue gases that would shield them from long-range scanners. Darien checked the navigation console, glancing occasionally at Vila, who sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat. 3 days had passed since their departure from Omega Station, and she remained guarded, speaking only when necessary. "We'll reach Confederation space in about 2 weeks," Darien said, breaking the silence. From there, we can contact your people. Vila nodded, her copper skin catching the light from the nebula, making her appear to glow from within. If there are any left to contact. Darien turned to her. What do you mean? She traced a finger along the arm of her chair, her purple eyes distant. My research vessel was studying gravitational anomalies near the Hertzsprung rift when we were attacked. 23 crew. I don't know if anyone else survived. Raiders. They called themselves the Obsidian Collective. They killed our security personnel immediately. Her voice remained steady, but Darien noticed how her fingers trembled. They were most interested in our navigation data and in Aurelians. Because of your abilities. Vila's gaze met his. We evolved on a planet with 3 moons and extreme tidal forces. Our species developed a sixth sense for gravitational fields, useful for avoiding natural disasters. Some can even navigate through quantum instabilities that would tear apart conventional ships. That's why you were valuable to them, Darien said, understanding dawning, and why you fetched such a high price. I was broken merchandise, she replied bitterly. I refused to navigate through a particularly dangerous passage. They used neural stimulators as punishment. When that failed, they decided to sell me. Darien winced. I'm sorry. For what? You didn't capture me. For what happened to you? No one deserves that. Vila studied him with those unsettling purple eyes. You're an unusual human, Darien Reynolds. Most species look after their own kind first. I found that kind is more about how someone behaves than what they look like, he replied, checking a readout that had begun to flash. Looks like we have company. Patrol cruiser near the edge of the nebula. Vila tensed. Obsidian. No standard Confederation markings. They're hailing us. If they find me. They won't, Darien interrupted, reaching for the communications panel. As far as anyone knows, you're my navigation specialist. I have contacts in the Confederation. They won't look too closely at my crew manifest. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. Why would you risk that for me? Darien gave her a half-smile. Maybe I just enjoy breaking rules. After the patrol cleared them, Darien showed Vila to the ship's small galley. He prepared a simple meal, watching as she cautiously sampled each dish. This is pleasant, she said, seemingly surprised. Just wait until you try my special recipe for protein cubes, he joked. Later, as they finished eating, Vila asked, what will you do after you return me to my people? Same as always, transport cargo, try to stay ahead of my debts, enjoy the freedom of deep space. He paused. What about you? If my colleagues survived, continue our research. Her expression softened. I miss looking at the stars as a scientist rather than as a prisoner calculating escape routes. That night, Darien found a small origami star made from foil wrapper outside his quarters. He smiled, tucking it into his pocket. A small gesture, but clear enough, the first fragile bridge of trust between their worlds. Hold this course, Vila instructed, her eyes closed in concentration. The massive asteroid field loomed before them, spinning chunks of rock and ice that would pulverize the starwind on impact. Darien kept his hands steady on the controls, fighting every instinct to veer away. You're sure about this? The conventional route adds 3 days, but it's a lot less likely to kill us. I can feel the gravitational eddies, she replied, copper skin gleaming with a fine sheen of sweat. There's a corridor of stability. There. She pointed to a seemingly impenetrable wall of asteroids. 2 weeks had transformed their relationship. The quiet, suspicious woman from Omega Station had gradually revealed herself, brilliant, observant, with a dry wit that caught him off guard. She had begun assisting with navigation, her Aurelian senses proving invaluable. I'm trusting you, Darien said, engaging thrusters. The starwind slipped between massive rocks, following an invisible path that only Vila could detect. The ship shuddered as smaller debris pinged against the hull. Left 3 degrees, she commanded. Now full thrust for 8 seconds. They emerged from the field unscathed, stars spread before them like diamonds on velvet. Vila opened her eyes, exhaling slowly. That, Darien said, grinning, was incredible. The pride in her smile ignited something in his chest. That evening they celebrated with a rare luxury, actual coffee from Darien's personal stores. They sat in the observation dome, the galaxy spinning above them. My people have a legend, Vila said, cradling her cup. It says that before we evolved our gravitational sense, an ancient Aurelian fell in love with the stars. She wished so desperately to understand their movements that the universe granted her wish, allowing her and all her descendants to feel the invisible forces that connect celestial bodies. Beautiful story, Darien replied. On Earth, we have thousands of star myths. One says that lovers who die together become binary stars, forever orbiting each other. Their eyes met briefly before both looked away. I've been meaning to ask, Darien ventured. Your hair, it's unusual for an Aurelian, isn't it? Vila touched her blonde curls self-consciously. A genetic variation. Most Aurelians have straight silver hair. My difference wasn't always appreciated. I think it's beautiful, he said, immediately embarrassed by his candor. A flush darkened her copper cheeks. You're kind to say so. Not kind, honest. The silence between them hummed with unspoken possibilities. Later that week, Darien taught Vila to dance to old Earth music. Her natural grace made her a quick learner, though she laughed at the concept. Synchronized movement with no practical purpose, she teased, even as she placed her hand in his. Entirely impractical, he agreed, guiding her through a turn. Completely illogical. Yet when the tempo slowed and the distance between them narrowed, neither pulled away. His hand rested at the small of her back, her palm warm against his shoulder. The ship's artificial gravity seemed insufficient, as though they were creating their own force field. Darien, she whispered, purple eyes intent on his face. I've never. The proximity alarm blared, shattering the moment. They sprang apart as Darien rushed to the bridge, Vila close behind. A message flashed on the communications panel, an Aurelian distress signal just 2 light days away. It could be my colleagues, Vila said, voice taut with hope and fear. Darien altered course without hesitation. Whatever had been building between them would have to wait. He understood duty and loyalty. It was one of the things he respected most about her. As they chased the signal into the darkness, Darien caught Vila watching him, her expression a complex mixture of gratitude and something deeper that neither was ready to name. The distress signal led them not to Aurelian survivors, but into an ambush. The moment they dropped out of hyperspace, electromagnetic pulses disabled the Starwind's weapons systems. The sleek black ship surrounding them bore no markings, but Vila's face drained of color. Obsidian Collective, she whispered. They faked the signal. Engine room, Darien ordered, grabbing her hand. Now. They raced through corridors as the ship shuddered under the first boarding attempt. Darien sealed bulkheads behind them, buying precious minutes. There's an emergency protocol, he explained, accessing a hidden panel in the engine room. It'll overload the power core, not enough to explode, but enough to fry every system temporarily, including their boarding locks. They'll still capture us when the systems reset, Vila argued. Darien revealed what looked like a service tunnel. Not if we're gone by then. This leads to an escape pod with stealth capabilities. It's how I've survived this long in dangerous space. As the ship went dark, they slipped into the cramped pod. Darien launched them away from the disabled Starwind, the pod's minimal signature lost amid the electromagnetic chaos. My ship, he murmured, watching through the viewport as the obsidian vessels swarmed his home of 15 years. Vila's hand covered his. I'm sorry. They drifted in silence, conserving oxygen. The pod's life support was designed for one person, not two. After hours of careful maneuvering, they reached an uninhabited moon with a breathable atmosphere, landing in a sheltered valley. As night fell, temperature dropped rapidly. They huddled together in the pod, sharing body heat. They were hunting me specifically, Vila said finally. The Obsidian Collective wanted me back. Why? Because I lied to you? I'm not just any Aurelian navigator. My genetic variation doesn't stop at my hair. She took a deep breath. I can sense quantum pathways, routes through space-time that conventional ships can't detect. With me, they could bypass any security, appear anywhere without warning. A living quantum compass, Darien said softly. No wonder they went to such lengths. I've cost you everything, her voice cracked. Your ship, your livelihood. You think I regret it? He turned to face her in the dim emergency lighting. Vila, the Starwind was just a vessel. What we've... He stopped, uncertain. Her purple eyes searched his face. What we've what, Darien? Instead of answering, he traced the curve of her cheek with his fingertips. She leaned into his touch, the copper of her skin warm beneath his hand. "I never expected you," he whispered, "any of this. Nor I you. Among my people we have a saying. The most profound gravitational forces are the ones we never see coming." Their first kiss was tentative, a gentle exploration of boundaries crossed. The second was not. Later, as they lay entwined beneath the pod's emergency blanket, Vila's copper skin luminous in the moonlight filtering through the viewport, Darien marveled at how the universe's vastness had somehow led them to each other. "When dawn comes," he murmured against her hair, "we'll signal for help. And then we find a way forward, together." Her fingers intertwined with his. "Together," she agreed. In the darkness of an unknown moon, surrounded by enemies, they had found an unexpected truth. Home wasn't always a place. The Aurelian outpost gleamed like a pearl against the azure backdrop of Proxima Centauri b after their rescue from the moon. A Confederation patrol had transported them here, where Vila's people maintained a small scientific installation. Darien stood on the observation deck, watching the approaching station. In 2 weeks, he had gone from captain to passenger, from rescuer to companion. Now, their journey was ending. He felt Vila's presence before she spoke. She had changed into traditional Aurelian attire, flowing silver robes that complemented her copper skin, her blonde curls arranged in an intricate style. "We'll dock in 20 minutes, she said, joining him at the viewport. "You look," he searched for adequate words, "like you've come home." Something flickered in her expression. "In some ways." An uncomfortable silence fell between them. They hadn't discussed what would happen after their arrival, after she reunited with her people, and he arranged transport back to Confederation space, where he would start over with nothing but the insurance payment for his lost ship. "Vila, Don't," she interrupted. "Not yet." The docking procedure passed in a blur. Aurelian officials welcomed them with formal dignity, though many cast curious glances at Vila's hair and her human companion. They were separated for debriefing, Darien explaining the Obsidian Collective's ambush to Confederation liaisons, while Vila spoke with her people's elders. Hours later, Darien sat alone in guest quarters, contemplating his future. Without the Starwind, he would need to find work on another vessel. The thought of returning to deep space without Vila left a hollow ache in his chest. A chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Vila, still in her formal robes but with her hair now loose around her shoulders as he preferred it. "The Council wants to reward you for my return," she said without preamble. "They're offering a new ship, smaller than the Starwind but with advanced systems." Darien stood. "That's generous." "They feel obligated, especially after I told them everything." She stepped closer. "Including what you mean to me." His heartbeat quickened. "And what did they say to that?" "That it's unprecedented, that it would require extensive cultural adjustment." A smile played at her lips. "That it's entirely my decision." "And what have you decided?" he asked, hardly daring to hope. She took his hands in hers. "The Aurelian Academy has commissioned a long-term study of quantum pathways throughout the sector. They need a navigator with my unique abilities." "Sounds like important work." "It is. They also need a pilot who knows the uncharted regions." Her purple eyes met his. "Someone experienced at breaking rules when necessary." Understanding dawned. "They're offering me a job." "I'm offering you a partnership." She squeezed his hands. "The ship would be ours, Darien. The mission would take years, exploring places no one has mapped." "Years together," he said softly, "in deep space." "My people have never had an interspecies pairing in our recorded history," she admitted. "We would be the first. Pioneers in more ways than one." Vila's copper skin flushed. "Is that a yes?" In answer, Darien pulled her close, his lips finding hers with the certainty of stars finding their orbits. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. "I've spent my life transporting cargo," he said. "Never imagined the most valuable thing I'd ever carry would be a copper-skinned woman with impossible purple eyes. And I never imagined freedom would look like a stubborn human with more courage than sense," she replied, smiling. 3 days later, they stood on the bridge of their new vessel, the Quantum Meridian. As the outpost receded behind them and the universe opened before them, Darien took Vila's hand. Where to, navigator? She closed her eyes briefly, sensing the invisible pathways that only she could perceive. When she looked at him again, her smile contained all the mysteries of the cosmos. Everywhere, she answered. We have all the time in the stars. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.